Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving deep into data governance.
Oh, yeah.
You know that thing that everyone's talking about these days?
Yeah.
Maybe you're here because it's suddenly become like super relevant at work, or maybe you're just curious how this whole digital world is being like tamed.
Right.
Either way, you are in the right place.
Absolutely. It's a hot topic, and for good reason.
Yeah.
We're generating more data than ever before,
Yeah.
and organizations are finally realizing that data isn't just like a byproduct of business.
Right.
It's a valuable asset.
It's like the new oil or something.
Exactly.
So let's get right to it. What exactly is data governance?
Right.
You hear a lot of definitions thrown around.
Yeah.
But what's the core idea?
At its heart, data governance is about establishing clear rules and processes for how data is collected, stored, used, and protected.
Okay.
It's like creating a digital playbook for your organization, making sure that everyone's on the same page and handling data responsibly.
So not just about avoiding those like headline-grabbing data breaches, but also about making sure the data is actually useful.
Absolutely. Data governance is about maximizing the value of data,
Okay.
ensuring that it's accurate, consistent, and accessible to the right people at the right time.
So like if you're making a critical business decision
Exactly.
and you've got bad data,
That could be disastrous.
yeah, that can be really bad.
Think about a retail company that's basing its inventory decisions on outdated sales figures.
Oh, yeah.
They could end up with warehouses full of products that no one wants,
Right.
while missing out on the hottest items.
Yeah.
Data governance can help to prevent those kinds of costly mistakes.
So we've got this digital playbook idea,
Right.
and our sources actually lay out some pretty clear principles, almost like the chapters of this playbook.
Yeah.
What's the first one we should tackle?
Well, it all starts with recognizing data as an asset. It's easy to think of data as just ones and zeros, but it's so much more than that.
right.
Data is a valuable resource like money or inventory, and it needs to be treated accordingly.
Yeah.
That means investing in the right people, processes, and technologies to manage it effectively.
And that leads us to the idea of data stewardship.
Yes.
So everyone in an organization has a role to play in data governance.
Absolutely.
It's not just the IT department's responsibility. Like if I'm entering customer information into a database,
Right.
I need to make sure it's accurate and complete.
Precisely.
Okay.
Data stewardship is about instilling a sense of ownership and responsibility for data quality across the entire organization.
Which brings us to the next principle, data quality itself.
Yes.
It's almost like a mantra in our sources.
Right.
The first time, every time.
I love that one.
Sounds catchy, but why is it so crucial?
Because garbage in, garbage out, as the saying goes. If you're making decisions based on flawed data, your outcomes are likely to be flawed as well.
Right.
Data quality is the foundation of effective decision-making, and it's a key focus of data governance.
Makes sense, but it's not just about accuracy, right?
Yeah.
We also have to consider the legal side of things, data compliance.
Oh,
All those privacy laws and regulations.
Absolutely. Data compliance is critical for mitigating risk and avoiding hefty fines.
Like GDPR.
Exactly. Think about the General Data Protection Regulation
Okay.
in Europe.
Yeah.
Companies that fail to comply with its strict data privacy requirements can face fines up to 4% of their annual global turnover.
Wow. That's a lot.
It is.
Okay, so data governance is basically a legal safety net.
It's certainly a crucial part of it.
Okay.
Data governance helps organizations establish processes and controls to ensure that they're meeting all relevant legal and regulatory requirements.
Okay, so we've got compliance covered.
Yes.
But what about protecting the data itself from, all the bad actors out there?
Right.
Data security, that's got to be a major piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. Data security is paramount in today's digital landscape.
Okay.
It's about implementing measures to prevent unauthorized access, use disclosure, disruption modification, or destruction of data.
Like,
Think firewalls, intrusion detection systems, encryption, and strong access controls.
so basically building a fortress around your data?
More like a multi-layered defense system.
Mhm.
You need to be prepared for all sorts of threats, from external hackers to internal negligence.
Okay, and lastly, we have this balancing act, data sharing and accessibility.
Yes.
So we want to make data available to those who need it,
Right.
but we also need to protect sensitive information. How does data governance help us walk that tightrope?
It's about finding the right balance between openness and control.
Okay.
Data governance helps organizations establish clear policies and procedures for who can access what data and under what circumstances.
So like different levels of security clearance?
In a way, yes.
Okay.
Data governance helps ensure that data is only accessible to those who have a legitimate need for it, while still promoting data sharing and collaboration where appropriate.
Okay, so we've laid out the key principles of data governance, data as an asset, data stewardship, data quality, compliance, security, and sharing and accessibility.
Yes.
These are the building blocks of a solid data governance framework.
Exactly. And now that we have a grasp of these foundational principles, we can move on to exploring how they're put into practice through different frameworks and approaches.
Sounds like a plan, but before we get into the nitty-gritty of frameworks, I think it's time for a little coffee break.
Sounds good.
We'll be back in a jiffy to dive deeper into the world of data governance.
Looking forward to it. Welcome back.
Now that we have a solid understanding of the principles behind data governance,
Right.
let's look at how those principles are actually implemented.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to talk about data as an asset,
Right.
but it's another to actually treat it like one.
Absolutely.
That's where frameworks come in, right?
Exactly. Frameworks provide a structured approach to data governance, helping organizations define roles, responsibilities, processes, and metrics.
Our sources mention a bunch of them.
Yeah, there are a lot.
DGI, CMMI, DeMat & Beck, EDM, Council DCAM.
Alphabet soup.
It's like alphabet soup.
Oh.
Where do we even begin?
Well, don't worry. It's not as daunting as it seems. Each framework has its own strengths and weaknesses, and the best choice for a particular organization depends on its specific needs and goals.
Okay, so it's like picking the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
Can you give us a quick rundown of the main contenders?
Sure, let's start with DGI, the Data Governance Institute Framework. It's known for its comprehensive and structured approach, covering everything from strategy and organization to implementation and measurement. Think of it as the ultimate data governance blueprint.
So if you're starting from scratch, DGI could be a good place to start.
It's certainly a solid foundation now. CMMI, or Capability and Maturity Model Integration, comes from the software engineering world, and it focuses on assessing an organization's maturity level in various areas, including data governance.
So it's less about providing a specific blueprint
Right.
and more about evaluating how well you're doing.
Exactly. CMMI helps organizations identify their strengths and weaknesses and provides guidance on how to improve their processes and capabilities over time.
Kind of like a data governance report card.
I like that.
I like it. What about DAMA DAMO? That one sounds pretty intense.
DAMA DAMPO stands for Data Management Association and Data Management Body of Knowledge. It's essentially an encyclopedia of data management best practices with a significant portion dedicated to data governance.
So if you need to look up a specific term or concept, DAMA DEMBook is your go-to resource.
Precisely. It's a comprehensive guide for data professionals.
And lastly, we have the EDM Council DCAM, or the Enterprise Data Management Council Data Capability Assessment Model.
This framework is laser-focused on assessing an organization's data management capabilities, including data governance. It helps organizations pinpoint areas for improvement and benchmark their performance against industry standards.
Okay, so we've got a comprehensive blueprint, a maturity model, an encyclopedia, and a specialized audit tool. That's quite a toolbox.
And just like any good craftsman, you need to choose the right tools for the job at hand. There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
But regardless of which framework you choose,
Right.
they all ultimately aim to address the same core principles.
Absolutely. And those principles need to be applied throughout the entire data lifecycle.
Ah, yes, the data lifecycle. We briefly touched on this earlier.
Right.
But let's take a closer look. It's like the journey of a piece of data from birth to, well, maybe not death, but retirement.
Data does have a lifespan, and managing it effectively throughout that lifespan is essential.
So walk us through the stages. Where does this data journey begin?
It all starts with data creation. This is where data is born, so to speak. It could be entered, manually generated by systems, or acquired from external sources.
Think about all the ways we generate data every day. Online shopping, social media, using our phones, even just walking down the street past security cameras. It's mind-boggling.
And at this creation stage, data governance focuses on establishing clear processes and guidelines to ensure data quality right from the start, remember. Garbage in, garbage out.
So we're setting the stage for good data hygiene from the very beginning.
Precisely. Next, we move on to data storage. Once data is created, it needs to be stored securely and efficiently.
So not just dumping it all into a giant digital warehouse and hoping for the best.
Not quite. Data storage involves choosing the right storage solutions, implementing backup and recovery procedures, and ensuring data integrity and accessibility. It's about creating a well-organized library for your data.
I like that analogy now. Once the data is safely stored, it's time for the main event data usage.
This is where data truly comes to life, generating insights, driving decisions, and creating value. But it's also where things can get tricky.
Because now we're dealing with ethical considerations, privacy concerns, potential biases.
Exactly. Data usage is where the rubber meets the road in terms of data governance. We need to ensure that data is used responsibly, ethically, and in compliance with all relevant regulations.
So it's like lending out a book from the library. We want to make sure it's used for its intended purpose and returned in good condition. Speaking of returning things, what about data that's no longer needed?
That brings us to the final stage, data archival. And disposal. Not all data is created equal, and not all data needs to be kept forever.
Some data has historical or regulatory value and needs to be archived, while other data can be safely deleted.
This stage is often overlooked, but it's just as important as the others. Properly archiving and disposing of data helps organizations minimize storage costs, reduce risk, and comply with legal requirements. It's about decluttering your data library and keeping only what's truly valuable.
So we've gone from data creation to storage usage and finally archival or disposal. That's quite a journey.
And along every step of the way, data governance is there to guide us, ensuring that data is managed responsibly and effectively.
Okay, so we've covered frameworks and the data lifecycle.
Right.
But what about the flip side? What are some common pitfalls organizations might encounter on their data governance journey?
Yes. Even with the best intentions and the most robust frameworks, things can still go wrong. And that's what we'll explore the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds intriguing. But before we venture into the dark side of data governance, let's take a quick breather and gather our thoughts. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've talked about the principles of data governance, explored different frameworks, and journeyed through the data lifecycle.
It's been quite a journey.
It has, but now it's time to get real. What are some of the things that can go wrong even when you're trying to do everything right?
Right. It's like trying to navigate a ship through treacherous waters.
Okay.
Even with the best charts and compass, you can still encounter unexpected storms and hidden reefs.
So what are some of the data governance shipwrecks we should be watching out for?
Well, one of the most common pitfalls is a lack of leadership commitment.
Oh, yeah.
You can have the most robust frameworks and processes in place, but if the people at the top aren't fully on board, it's all for naught.
It's like having a captain who's not really interested in steering the ship.
Exactly.
You might end up going in circles or worse, running aground.
Data governance needs to be a top-down initiative with clear support and buy-in from senior management.
Makes sense. What else can send a data governance initiative off course?
Another common mistake is failing to link data governance to clear business goals.
Okay.
It's easy to get caught up in the technical details and lose sight of the bigger picture.
So it's like setting sail without a destination in mind.
Exactly.
You might enjoy the journey, but you'll never actually arrive anywhere meaningful.
Data governance needs to be driven by business objectives. How can data help you achieve your strategic goals? What insights do you need to make better decisions?
Okay.
Once you have those answers, you can tailor your data governance efforts accordingly.
So it's not just about having good data for data's sake.
Right.
It's about using data strategically to drive business outcomes.
Precisely. Another pitfall is overemphasizing monitoring.
Okay.
It's important to track key metrics, of course,
Yeah.
but you don't want to get bogged down in data dashboards while ignoring the real issues.
It's like focusing on the ship's instruments while ignoring the giant iceberg looming ahead.
Monitoring should be a means to an end, not an end in itself. Use the insights you gather to improve data quality, address compliance gaps, and enhance security measures.
So don't just watch the gauges actually steer the ship. Now, we've talked a lot about frameworks and processes.
Right.
What about the role of technology in data governance?
Well, technology can be a powerful enabler, but it's not a silver bullet.
Okay.
Organizations often fall into the trap of thinking that simply implementing the latest data governance tool will solve all their problems.
It's like thinking that buying a fancy new GPS system will automatically make you a skilled navigator.
Technology can support and enhance your data governance efforts, but it can't replace the need for clear policies, well-defined roles, and a culture of data responsibility.
So it's not about the tools themselves, but how you use them.
Absolutely. And speaking of using tools effectively, communication and collaboration are crucial for successful data governance. You need to break down silos, foster open dialogue, and ensure that everyone is working together towards common goals.
Yeah, it's like having a crew that's constantly bickering and refusing to share information. You're bound to run into trouble.
Data governance requires a team effort with clear communication channels and a shared understanding of roles and responsibilities.
Makes sense now. One last pitfall I want to touch on is resistance to change.
Oh, yeah.
Data governance often requires people to change their habits, adopt new processes, and embrace new ways of thinking.
And change can be uncomfortable, especially in large organizations with entrenched ways of doing things.
It's like trying to convince a seasoned sailor to abandon their trusty old compass for a fancy new GPS system.
I like that one.
They might be skeptical even if the new technology is objectively better.
To overcome resistance to change, you need to clearly articulate the benefits of data governance, provide adequate training and support, and address concerns openly and honestly.
So it's about bringing the crew on board, explaining why the change is necessary, and making sure everyone feels comfortable navigating the new waters.
Exactly. Data governance is a journey, not a destination. It's an ongoing process of continuous improvement.
And as with any journey, there will be challenges and setbacks along the way.
For sure.
But with the right mindset, the right tools, and a strong crew, you can navigate those challenges and arrive at a destination where data is treated as a valuable asset, used responsibly, and protected effectively.
Well said. And just remember, even if you're not directly involved in data governance initiatives within your organization, these principles are still relevant to you.
Right.
As individuals, we all generate and interact with vast amounts of data every day.
From our online shopping habits to our social media activity, we're leaving a digital trail everywhere we go.
So it's important to be mindful of your own data footprint, understand your privacy rights, and advocate for responsible data practices.
So in a way, we all have a role to play in the data governance story.
Absolutely, because in the end, data is about people, it's about our lives, our experiences, our connections, and it's up to all of us to ensure that data is used ethically, responsibly, and for the benefit of humanity.
That's a powerful message to end on. So there you have it, folks. A deep dive into the world of data governance. We've covered a lot of ground today, but the conversation doesn't end here.
Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep the data flowing responsibly.
Until next time, data explorers